Hey, welcome back, Perfect Peeps. I have our MDE guest today, and if you haven't heard of that, it is called Media Development Experts from Cloudinary, or those who are about to be a media development expert like Maya, who actually works for Cloudinary.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
So from Maya's standpoint, she is a senior front-end developer at Cloudinary and a core maintainer of Storefront UI. Also the founder and organizer of Vue.js Israel meetups. She is Vietnamese, but lives in Israel, which is amazing to me.
That's awesome.
So the rest of your bio says speaker, blogger, bookworm, and hardcore Sailormoon fan.
So many things, Maya. Whoa.
I actually didn't know that you're going to read it out loud. So
we've got to read it out loud.
Basically, I'm Maya, and that should stay.
Cool. And our other guest is Tim Benniks, and he is the director of web development at Valtech Paris. He is born in Amsterdam, also a speaker, writer, organizer of front-end meetups in Paris. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess it comes with the job Maya and I have. We just do so much stuff.
So as your hosts, I'm Alex Patterson, HMP.com, as well as my co-host.
Nick Roosh. I'm here. I'm rocking it out with these guys. Looking forward to it.
So Nick,
the guy with the best room. Sorry,
yeah, totally.
I'm just here for the pictures, guys. That's it.
So Nick is actually program manager. See how I always mess it up at General Motors. So he works in the infotainment system area right now currently, but he also helps me with HMP and our Perfect.dev podcast, which many of you are probably listening to at this point. So let's kick this off. Are you guys excited or what?
Yes, this is cool.
So the first question we have is, what is a media developer expert? What's that all about?
I'm so looking at Maya right now.
Yeah,
who works at Cloudinary.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you work there.
So I've been asked the one-liner. Can you tell me like a one-liner from Cloudinary what this is?
Well,
I struggle with it.
Well, you're not the only one who struggle with it. Technically, here you go, and I'm the only one who don't have this kind of swag. How bad it is!
For those of you listening on the podcast and not necessarily on YouTube, I've got my Cloudinary bottle with me, along with my backpack hiding here somewhere. So I've got a shout out for Tessa on that one. We'll have to chat with her some other time.
I need to find my unicorn somewhere. Where's my unicorn?
So what is a media developer expert?
Well, it's a very long term, but I think in short, it's just a developer that is really passionate about on medias, like how to optimize media, use case for like really into making media more optimized for performance and building a better visual web. And first of all, you need to be a developer and a good developer. And that's my point of view. So that's how I look for that's what I look for when I talk to other developer about potential MDE. In addition, you probably, an MDE should be able to talk about it or to express how they feel about media, because it's not easy to voice out, So that's more or less the concept. So Tim, what do you think?
I think you're right.
Did I make it correct?
Yes. No, I think you need to have this passion for media, and for me personally, that stems from having to do media stuff for these huge clients, and I only had to do that because their media was delivered so slowly and crappy and bad quality. Mm-hmm. And I always work for luxury clients, so images needs to be pristine, like how the photographer took it, right? Mm-hmm. So I just rolled into it that way just because I had to. And now I love it. And now I'm looking at accessibility and all these other things. So there's different angles. For me, it's more the business perspective, but we also have a bunch of people who are still students as MDE, and they're doing it from another angle, and they're learning a lot about it, and they're evangelizing. So it's a really cool thing, actually.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of fun to get into. I was actually at Refactor Tech when I first heard about. I've heard about Cloudinary forever. I was part of Cloudinary, but
Really?
the actual sorry, I wasn't hired by them. I was just on their platform.
Sure. Okay.
But when I was at Refactor Tech, they started reaching out about the media developer expert, which gets into our how did you get started as it. And the big thing for me was it's such an exciting platform that Cloudinary offers, from images and image manipulation where you can do on-the-fly cropping, and they actually have that neat feature where they can focus onto a face and create avatars automatically. And some of their newer stuff they're doing with video is just blowing my mind. So one of the big questions that I often get, like, what does Cloudinary provide that like a S3 bucket on Amazon can't? Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Well, let's put it this way. Cloudinary is like the Cloudinary is like the extended S3 buckets. Like basically, you can use S3 buckets and integrate with Cloudinary and do all the image optimization on top of the resources that you save in S3. But beside that, Cloudinary itself is actually also the hosting. A resource like storage, but that's not the main part. It's different is that it allows you to keep one version of resource, but from that version of resource, you can make a lot of different other version with different transformation, and it's smart enough to make it optimize and make it really suit your need in the device, in the client's point of view, not just in the developer point of view, but it's actually the end user point of view. That's why I got to Cloudinary about 4 or 5 years ago. When I went, the first time I heard about them, when I went to a booth in a conference, and they showed me the whole thing with the W100 and high 100,
Yeah.
like, and they were like, I totally like impressed.
Yeah,
Seriously, like really impressed. Like
it's like magic. Like you don't even have to do anything.
Yeah,
The thing
think
is,
about how much. Sorry, I think
go on.
how much work you save from CSS point of view when you have to when you don't have to deal with all these resize and then all the CSS code to do it, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So for the both of you, Maya first, where do you primarily focus? I'm gonna pop up for those on the podcast. I'm kind of showing Cloudinary SDK backend here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Maybe. Apparently, I'm struggling today. There we go.
Yay!
So this is kind of the frameworks, and where I primarily focus is on the client side SDKs. Do you find that either of you, do you focus in other areas between server side or mobile?
For me, okay, unless Tim, you want to start, or
sure. I have a controversial one. I don't focus on any of those.
Okay.
We actually, because I have these huge clients that all have their own specific needs, and we basically just focus it all on the URL, because the URL has the whole Cloudinary API, and that's the most amazing thing of this whole system. Because you don't need React to concatenate the URL for you, because that's basically what this system does, right?
Yep.
And so we have these crazy use cases where, let's say, we work for Chanel, and they had like 5,000 product images, but they're all shot in different ways with different layers in Photoshop. And we just devised a URL scheme to remove certain layers and move other stuff around. And only on the URL, we unified all those products.
Yeah.
So I didn't really care, about all those. Like nowadays, we have a few plugin. I think, Maya, you worked on that, right?
Yeah, I work on one of the plugin. Actually, it's like one of my side project, because I'm a senior front end. So my project is actually not the frameworks, but more like if you go up to the beginning, the top, I was working on some solution called the digital asset management, like like you allow you to upload and manage your asset and do all the transformation inside there. And now I'm working on the plugin like a SDK for Vue, like like we can have a component for Cloudinary on Vue application that you can pass a lot of transformation, and it will also auto generate the image tag using the URL.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what Tim says is correct. The most unique thing about Cloudinary is that you can do everything with the URL, which is very powerful. And all the SDK we provide is actually wrapped around that idea. And
and it saves your ass everywhere. Because
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I can say that. We're from Europe. We can say anything.
Edit that.
Yeah, we'll have
Edit-
to take
edit-
that one out.
Sorry.
We
So what
try
we
to
see,
keep it for kids on this channel.
yeah, you're sorry, man.
That's
So
okay.
what we see all the time is that the moment you do this stuff at scale, these clients have so many systems in place, you cannot just remove it and say, oh, we do everything Cloudinary.
Right.
So because it's so scalable and flexible, you can just remove certain parts and add other parts. And this is what makes it so cool. Like we can have this Amazon bucket, but like if you have a client like L'Oreal, they shoot a model, but you cannot show that image after 1 year. But if you just put that in the cache somewhere and in the CDN and it stays, you have a big problem, right?
Yeah,
and
for
Cloudinary
sure.
can solve all of that also.
Yeah, I know one of the amazing parts, like even on Ajon P's site, I actually take one picture that is uploaded, and we actually scale that depending on your device. And again, it's all URL based, or sorry, it's done in the URL. And so it's that browser based version of this. It's not using a SDK or anything. Gatsby actually spits out source sets for images, and some are some switch from just kind of that core image JPEG PNG and actually spit out WebP. So you're getting a super light, super performant picture, and you really don't have to do a lot of work. And that's what blows my mind. And that's why I became part of Cloudinary's MDE program, was just my fascination with the tooling and the company itself. So that's why I think many of us got started on this. So kind of taking that to the next level, I know initially I was talking like what makes a Google developer expert, what makes a MDE. So what is kind of your inspiration? I'll go to Tim first on this one. What inspires you or motivates you to get kind of into the community and start to create this stuff for people? I mean, it's a lot of extra work and extra hours. Are you just passionate about it?
I think passion is a big one. I'm like a creative person and stuff just comes out all the time. And for the longest time, I channeled this into my job. That's of course private, right? It's for clients and stuff like that. And at one point I decided, why not just write a bit more or go a bit out and speak on some conferences, because we never speak about the solutions we do for those big clients. And then suddenly I noticed this is so nice to have all these people around you that are actually much better than you. Like these MDEs, they're amazing, and I learned so much. And with that, it just moves a bit quicker. And what I notice now is that I'm looking for great people to work with. And the more you're in those kind of environments, you find those people. And if it clicks, you can grow your own profile. But also my team has grown significantly this year just because I started doing this kind of stuff. Cool. Right, so it's both personal, but also for the group. I think it's great.
Yeah, so that's also how I met Tim.
Yes, exactly. We spoke on the same conference, right? Was that it?
Yep. He came to me and say, "Oh, hey, I'm a fan of Cloudinary." Like, oh, cool.
And then actually, your boss Doron, he knew me already. Because I keep on pushing Cloudinary on every project I have. Because every time they have an issue, it's like, oh, you solve it with this in Cloudinary, you solve it with that in Cloudinary. And they're always like, oh, Tim, do they pay you or something? No, I need a solution. Give me something high quality.
Yeah,
so that's how
awesome. So what gave you the courage? It sounds like both of you have put in CFPs and like went through that whole process. What kind of led you and gave you the courage enough to get up on stage and talk through that? What's that like?
Why me? Okay. Well, it's hard to say. I guess the first thing is that the passion. Like I have something I want to talk about, and before the stage, always so hard. It's like every minutes before the stage, we're like, oh God, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
I know the
But
feeling.
yeah, it's really scary feeling, and it always happens. And again, just the fact that I love what I'm talking about, and I know my topic well, and I'm not afraid of sharing it, and I know that people will dislike it or like it, but it doesn't really matter. I want to share something, and I'm going to share it to the community, and that's what make me standing on the stage and just do it.
So as part of that kind of process and putting in CFP, for those folks who don't know, call for papers, do you usually start with an idea and an abstract and then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I have started with an idea, and then the idea come mostly because of my work, like because I work in a team, and we have discussion over certain subject, like how design this and that, and then suddenly I just got the idea because people start discuss and start to argue about it. That I just put the idea, and then I put it in an abstract, like put it some, like point. What is the point here I want to talk about? Do a bit research, and then form into a very long description, and then start to minimize it until I'm happy that it's short and attractive enough. The title is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It's like naming variable. Like it's not easy to do some title. Luckily, I have some guy that called Doron.
Yes.
So if you guys need an inspiration, you really need to go for him, because he's like my master of title. Every time I'm stuck in the title, I just go to him, hey, what do you think about this? Which title should be good? And then he give me some title, and then okay, that sounds cool. I put in my CFP, and then I got accepted.
That's amazing.
So do you think the title makes it acceptable? That's like the best thing about it, or?
I think it's like about 30% or 40%, because it's like when you look at the talk, the first thing you see is the title. And then after the title, they will look at the abstract. So the abstract need to be friendly, and then it's like appeal to what your idea, make your idea stand out. So one of the abstract that I got accepted the most, that I put it as the conversation between developer. And then in the end, I say, okay, so my talk is exactly about this, the discussion of the developer, and somehow they like it.
Good.
That's fantastic. Tim, is that kind of similar for your experience? Are those the things you kind of focus on first, or do you have like a project you've rolled off of and you try to spin that back into a talk or a presentation?
I think lately it's that exactly. So I'm on this pretty big program that is very complex, that's very big, and it's now that we've done this a couple of years, it's kind of this gold mine of how do you work with people from different cultures, or what kind of technology do you use at scale. And slowly but surely I started to realize, hey, that's a subject that we always struggle with, but we have a solution. So I'd write a blog post for work or something like that. And I was lucky enough to be invited to some conferences without me writing a CFP. So I kind of rolled into it with luck. And then I realized, hey, I can actually do this.
That's amazing.
And I'm not saying I'm the best at that, but it slowly grows. So now I'm writing CFPs because you're not always asked for something, right?
Right.
And I just got another not accepted today. So things happen, right?
So I put those, I tag those in my Gmail, and it's just, I go like look at them occasionally, just say, okay, there's my list of people that didn't want to talk. Like it makes me motivated to kind of go after it.
And I think this is what I noticed, like lately, my talks generally don't go very specific into one thing. Like I won't talk about this is an image, but I would talk about a bigger subject that can cross different subjects, let's say. And for conferences, it's sometimes really hard to choose those talks.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's for Nick and I, this is a lot of help. We're trying to get a CFP through NGConf. We kind of talked about that before we started live here. And so it's really useful for us to know that. And I think for others to kind of be encouraged to become like MDEs or Google developer experts or any other expert that's out in the community, I think it's huge to start talking at your local conferences, and start that community involvement. That's what gets
start
you.
small. It's everything.
Yeah.
Which actually leads to our next question. How do you get local community involvement? Like how are you two kind of involved in your communities? Did you start meetups? How did that start for you?
Oh, okay. Let me start this.
Yeah, sure.
Well, for me, I started Vue.js Israel, the community meetups, and it all started because we have a community of Vue developers, but they don't have any, like, we have React meetups, we have Angular meetups, but there's no certain meetups for Vue developers, and we have a Facebook group, but nothing else. So I asked around, like, I did throw the question in and say, so why there's no Vue developers meetups? And they say, no one ever thought of it. So I said, cool, let's do
Let's
it.
go.
Let's go for it. Why not? So I started, and I do on the preparing the talk to people and say, this is the topic that will be interested in this community. And they start the first one to see how it go, and start asking people to put a CFP, to submit CFP to my meetup and see how react. And I got a few. That's enough to run the first 2 conference.
Yep.
And then going on, and then start to talk around with the core team and the other meetups and other organizer and learn from there. And then slowly, it will be more. The whole community start to involve, and we got more people from more companies that contact us to host it, like to willing to sponsor and host it in their own company, and more speakers.
That's awesome. Tim, do you have a similar experience with kind of your local meetups in Paris there?
Actually, it's quite different. Like where I work in Paris, it's there for a long time, and it's kind of on the outside for Frontend. It's really a boring place, even though we do great stuff. I have to be honest, this is how it is. And so it was my job when I became the director. Okay, we need to change this around. So I just was lucky to speak on a really good conference. I was the one after Evan Yu, which is the creator of Vue. So it was the perfect time. We had a really good showcase of what I did in that program that I worked on. So from there, I got a lot of interested people, also from Paris, but also from other places. And so I started to go to some more meetups, but I didn't ever go to a meetup before. I don't know why. I just worked hard. That's it. I only worked.
So I think that's true everywhere. I think you find that like people, like they go to work, they try to focus as much as they can, they try to skill up on their own, but there's like this whole different flavor when you start to get into the meetup world.
Exactly.
And like drawing all of those talented people together. It's mind blowing.
I actually didn't realize that I had knowledge that others didn't have due to this crazy amount of work I used to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so you can just share this. And now suddenly we did our first Valtech meetup in Paris. And suddenly there were all these people that actually came. Like, whoa, I didn't actually prepare as good as Maya, who actually did CFPs and the whole thing. I just had my team speak because I want them to learn to speak.
Yeah.
A good speaker will do great in projects. They can defend themselves against crazy clients, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's
it just worked. Deal. And now we hosted the Vue.js Paris meetup, which is really quite prestigious. And they asked me, can you host? Sure. Yeah. And suddenly these things are happening. So it's also like good vibes, push it forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, the difference is because I'm a more organized type of person. So
yes,
I also
learn. You're right.
I'm just learn from the organizer on the conference. So I said, okay, let's just copy this module into the meetup and do it slowly. But to be honest, sometimes we don't really we skip the whole CFPs and just do the last minute talk.
Sure.
Like
we just do beers and pizza, and then people come. And actually, that model also works, unless it gets bigger and we need to organize things, right? But for now, this is totally fine.
Pizza is always good. Pizza and beer is always good. It works for everyone.
That's right.
Even in Paris.
Yeah.
Nick,
how about you guys?
Nick, do you find like you have something like that? So Nick works at a pretty large corporation, so you guys probably do a lot of lunch and learns. But do you find like meetups or local meetups or something that people do around you?
I think it's something that we are looking at doing. I think the one thing that we've done in our organizations, we've been able to do basically lunch and learns, and that's where we're bringing in we also sponsored a hackathon at GM in our California office last year to try to basically hack the vehicle systems and come up with ideas.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it was a great thing, great for college, great for beginners wanting to explore. And it's something that I think is critical to being successful is community.
Yeah, I've learned that over this year for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt.
Cool and frightening all at the same time when people are trying to hack cars, right?
Yeah. So what did you hack exactly?
So the goal of it was to basically break our infotainment system and break our architecture, our system architecture that's in our latest vehicles, because there has been issues in the past with other vendors, and that's just a big cybersecurity is a big issue for us. So just basically giving people the keys to our SDK, anything that a developer might or might not have, and just letting them try to get at it.
And that's the real hackathon.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
We actually do this. We work for Audi and we do similar stuff. So I'm really interested what you hacked and what we can hack. I'll talk to you later, I think.
you can become a hacker just like in 1 minute.
It's frightening and scary.
Actually, my husband will be so interested in it. He just hacked my entire car system.
Really?
Yeah, the other day, like he installed a bunch. My car have the system that prevent me from installing some software, and then one night he just decided that he going to hack it, and they spent the whole night in the car. And the next morning I came, and my car system is completely different.
That's kind of scary.
It's still you could still use the brakes, right?
Yeah. So far.
I'm still sitting here.
So I run Jamstack GR, and the only reason I called it that was because I kind of similar with all of you. We don't necessarily want a focus on Vue or Angular, like that specific niche. It was more just around like, let's talk web stuff. And people are like, well, I don't do front end. And I'm like, well, APIs, like that's fine. Let's talk like infrastructure as code. Let's talk middleware. And so we've tried to spin it up, and Maya, just like you, I had probably 5 people on the first one. And it's growing. The free pizza, as you said, helps a lot. But I'm trying to get more organizations involved at this point too, and keep pulling that in. So Gatsby is sponsoring our February meetup.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow, cool.
I would recommend reaching out. They have a great community program over there. So if you want to pull them in, I think it's pretty easy. It's not too hard. And I just got approved to do Hashcode 2020 from Google. So you guys definitely have to check that one out.
You're doing good stuff, man. That's cool.
Some links up.
That's really cool stuff.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone who's listening as well. Check out these different events and who you can pull in, and don't be afraid to start your own meetup in your community, because it is a lot of work and it takes some time, but you'll get a lot out of it too. That's what I enjoy the most. So helping build up those developers around you is huge.
Actually, what I've learned this year is it's so easy. Like, for example, we do this huge project and we use Nuxt. This is a Vue.js framework that can also do some server-side rendering and stuff like this. Yep. And I know they're in France, so I just hit the guy up, call him. It's like, we have this project. I cannot really tell you the client, blah, blah, blah. He's like, sure, come to Bordeaux. We worked for a couple of days, and now there's this thing that went live, and we are so proud together. And
that's amazing.
The thing is, these guys are geniuses. I'm just this dude, and I just call him, and he's like super enthusiastic. So people from Gatsby or from Cloudinary, everybody wants to do this. Yeah. So if you just do it, just write a crappy CFP, probably is fine. If you are a good speaker or your concept is great, you probably get in.
That's the thing. I always tell people, like, those people are geniuses. Like, don't get me wrong. And there's a lot of those, but many of them just either don't have the time or they don't have the willingness sometimes to get up in front of people and teach. So that's that community building side that MDEs draw in, that GDs draw in. There's probably other DE type of things that I'm missing, but there's those communities that get built up, and the people that come out of them are huge. You don't have to be in Silicon Valley to do this. We can do it around the world. Like, we're talking 3 different time zones, 3 different parts of the world at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually just learned that Paris is one of the biggest startup communities in the world.
Oh, really? That's
this
amazing.
is crazy. There's so
Really?
much VP money going around. Of course, we're speaking to the US and Israel here, who are also huge, which is fine. But I don't think we're close to you, but
no, but you're growing like crazy. I mean, you look at like per capita, you're going to catch up pretty quick, right? So
yeah, and I'm quite happy to be in Paris because when I was in Amsterdam, we're on the forefront of technology, and in Paris, it seemed to be a bit behind, which is actually cool because there's so much work, and people are quite open. If you do one thing well, you make these relationships, and now they just all want to do this new technology. So, for example, next year we're going to do Jamstack for so many projects because it's really an interesting subject.
For sure,
and like green and sustainability and all of those extras on top of just the technology are so interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you definitely should talk to me.
Yeah, I have a whole talk actually about Jamstack. I did it last week on the Vue conference.
Cool.
Yeah,
so I'll be shopping that one around, you know.
If you want to throw that in the show notes, I'd be happy to add it to
oh, sure.
list.
I can send you some slides if you want.
Alex, you also have a podcast about Jamstack, right? Am I right?
I don't have a podcast out there yet, but we plan on doing one for sure as part of Jamstack GR. So we do have some videos out there that we've kind of live streamed from Jamstack GR. I encourage anyone to jump on that too.
Oh, I'm going to check that out for sure.
Me
Very
too.
Cool. I'd love to have you on as guests as part of that too. So that'd be cool.
I went super deep into this, and then I realized I'm not a front-end dev, but I'm a web dev, right? You need to know cloud. And then I went into Azure, and then it's the most shit interface I've seen. And then you have to fix that up. And it's actually learning the tools rather than the concept, because the concept is actually so easy and clear. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah.
Using the tools, wow. Amazon is even worse.
You don't mention Amazon here. I mean, so anyone is doing Amazon?
It's very interesting because I work in a consulting shop, and so we have to use it all. Like we use it all the time. And obviously Amazon's kind of the biggest fish out there, and then basically Azure and GCP after that.
Yeah.
But there's a client that wants something in all of those, and what we've found is that things are all moving to the cloud, and in the next 3 years, the big thing is I feel like that people have done lift and shifts. They've taken their infrastructure and just set it in there. But now is the serverless time and the Jamstack side of things that are really starting to come out. So
yeah, I'm really ready to push that forward.
I think we're running up on time a little bit. We always try to keep kind of around a half hour. Shaq, would you like to do the new favorite saying at the end here?
Yeah, we need a rando. Rando.
What is that?
I think we're not American enough to understand this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I am either. We're still working on
We're still working through it.
But basically our rando question is, how can we swap out StreamYards powered by StreamYard in a video for an MDE? Maya said she knew how to do this.
I think we can figure that out.
Maya claimed that there's a way to do it, not that I know how to do this.
Maya knows a person who might be able to do it.
Well, technically, you can use Cloudinary in the URL of the video and add it as an overlay. Put it in the top right corner. Top right corner. I'm really always confused with left and right here. Anyway, so you should be able to put a Cloudinary icon on top of StreamYard, and it will stay the whole time. You can even put a small background over the Cloudinary icon so that no one will see the StreamYard logo at all, and that's cool, right?
That's amazing. That's part of the stuff that I love about Cloudinary. There's so much image and video manipulation you can do just on the fly. Really, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, now that the video stuff came out, I'm totally blown away because I wanted that a while back. You know,
you saw that one, the new video editor.
Yep, for sure.
No, I haven't yet. I still have to log in.
Yeah, so apparently you can do a lot of cool stuff with the video editor, and I'm not sure they launched it, but they have the image of media editor also, that you can also, they also smart enough to know where your logo should appear on the image, and then when you click on it, it will automatically generate the icon, the logo on top of your image.
Wow.
And then you can drag and drop it somewhere, and then it will generate for you the URL exactly where you are, so you don't have to calculate where's the X, where's the Y, where's the Z.
So
cool.
no more Premiere Pro then for us.
So,
Wow.
Cool.
So
Well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I really appreciate you, Perfect Peeps, for coming on, and we'll see you next time on Perfect.dev. Thanks again for watching Perfect.dev. We also host a podcast on Perfect.dev. This feeds out to iTunes, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast.fm, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Stitcher. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching Perfect.dev.